Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 28th season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. And each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Harry's Construction, if you can dream it, we can create it. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Keller Engineers, delivering results, exceeding expectations. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
What I'm doing, getting right to it. The money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I drew it. Yeah, you know what it is. We doing it big. Look up, there is no limit, no, we cannot settle for this. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, spin on live. You don't believe it, just watch.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime. We are the NitWits. In the words of Peter Terpstra, we have a lot to unpack. A short night. Penn State loses double overtime game 30-24 to Oregon. No shortage of high drama and a beautiful whiteout. Joined as usual by Mark Brennan and our great friend of the show, Bill Contz. Great to see you, Bill.
Great to be here. I'm part of excessive hair month here on NitWits. First with Nastasi when he shows up with that. He scares me with that beard. That's got that James Harden thing going, and you're not sure what to expect out of the guy.
Be careful. He was a nitwit of the week, so a little pressure on you.
A lot of pressure. That's
later.
Right. Anyway.
Well, the Penn State went into the game with a national narrative. It was James's 4-20 against the top 10. Now it's 4-21. That didn't change. There were a lot of priorities that they tried to address going in, with doing better on third down and getting a good starting fast, get the fans on their feet.
Explosive plays didn't work.
Right. How did you add it all up?
111,000 people in the stadium. I don't think anybody could have guessed how it was going to get to that tight ending. It looked like it was, Penn State was kind of dead in the water. But once it became a tight game, I think everybody in the stadium probably had a feeling for how it was going to end. I mean, this has become the norm against top 10 teams. They find a way to lose. They shoot themselves in the foot and make a key mistake. This time it was Drew Aller again. And, it happened against Oregon last year with 2 interceptions, one that allowed them to run out the clock. It happened against Notre Dame with an interception that allowed Notre Dame to kick the game-winning field goal. James Franklin, well known at this point, 4-21 against top 10. They are finding ways to lose these games. And you have to give the other guy credit, yes, but when it happens so frequently, you also have to take a look inside at what's going on.
Yeah, had you told me that we would hold the Oregon offense to fewer points at halftime than the USA Men's Ryder Cup team had scored, I'd have said, go pound salt. That's insane. A lot of surprises, not one of which the score, but we were dominated physically at the line of scrimmage. They found ways to throw a wrench with those quick, short passes to get their players in space. Granted, tough to watch from a fan's perspective, but second half adjustments, they made theirs, we didn't adjust, boom, they're starting to make splash plays, and it's up 17-3. To their credit, They came back, grit, determination, say what you want.
Yeah.
End of the day, here we are looking up at Oregon in the Big Ten standings.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because you come out of these games feeling that Penn State is certainly competitive, but they just find a different way to lose. Slow starts, terrible endings, and this is going back a bunch of years. What disappointed me the most, first of all, your quarterback, your 3-year starting quarterback, has just got to play better in those in that big of environment. He was behind, and then to throw the fateful, like you say, just reminded you of the Notre Dame finish last year. But I just, they weren't able to establish the run, which they went and prioritized. I just don't know. He's been through multiple offensive coordinators now, and James is the common denominator. I don't know, is Aller overrated? Is he overcoached? A lot of unanswered questions here.
With Aller, I said before the game, I think we've gotten to the point where you don't need him to win the game for you. You need him to make the plays that he's capable of making. But you can't have him losing the game. And that's what's happening. I mean, that decision on that interception to start the second overtime, you could look at that play 100 different times and think, what on earth was he thinking? And making it at that point of the game is just, you scratch your head. With the offense, going into the bye, what were the issues? Explosive plays, third down, what else am I missing? I mean, but everything that was an issue going into the bye remained an issue coming out of the bye. What did they do during the bye? And so I think you have to take a look at Andy Kotelnicki and say, Neil, you're right. The common thread has been James, but in this specific season, in this specific game, to show zero improvement in those areas until the final 8 minutes of the game or whatever it was, coming out of a bye. You're gifted a bye going into this.
Well, he pointed out they were 3rd and 9 consistently throughout the first half. Oregon doubled time. But what are you seeing on this offensive line? I mean, this was supposed to be one of the great units.
Yeah, we had thought going in, here's some veteran players up front. They have depth. These are guys that, while in the past they would have exceptional individual players, maybe this is James Franklin's first real exceptional group as a unit. And, on the big stage like this against a formidable team that's ranked in the top 5, we need to have better performance out of those guys. Missed assignments. The center was offside twice in critical situations. Yeah. The pocket collapsing. Drew gets a little happy feet sometimes and has a tendency, once that steps up, he's immediately going to try to run. He's a big, strong kid. He's done things on first down. We are at a point now similar to the 1982 season, my senior year, where we got kicked in the teeth in Alabama. This loss now means that Penn State has to play their way back in, and we can do that. We've got a tough road to hoe down in Columbus with Ohio State, and we have Indiana at home, but we now don't have any margin for error.
Yeah, trip to Iowa.
Can I have a question for Bill? As an offensive lineman, I know you played a long time ago, but in your championship season, how many false starts were there on the center in the entire season? I mean, have you ever seen 2 in one game?
No,
And the other thing, one more thing, is that indicative of him, or is it something that's happening with the rest of the line or the offense?
It's a different method of communication. You saw Oregon tapping a guy on a leg and so forth, but with the home team, you wouldn't think that would be an issue. So I can't, and you'd have to ask Nick Dawkins. I don't have the answer to that. I'm sure those guys feel we left something out there or we just didn't perform. I mean, their yards per average running was like 24 yards on 13 carries in the first half. That was abysmal against a pretty good Oregon team, but you're playing at home. It's a whiteout. You ought to be fired up. And having 2 weeks to prepare for this, mistakes should be at a minimum.
Yeah, frustration boiled over early in the fourth quarter. It was 17-3. There was a clear Fire Franklin chant, which I think is unfortunate, uncomfortable, but that is the world that we're in.
When your stadiums has Bud Light, there's advertising on the field, players wearing chains, players making money, Franklin making big money. I don't say that it's something I would do if I were a college football fan, but listen, it's pro sports now.
Okay, there's some more to address, and we will. Some things were encouraging, and we'll try to find those right after this.
The Nitwits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Reed and Salaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntingdon. And by Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Bill Contz, former offensive lineman, NFL player, and most notably an author and a nitwit.
And a nitwit.
I mean, what a resume.
Veteran nitwit. Right. It's always a pleasure to come back because the topic, and there's so many fans, so many loyalists, Penn State fans, and it was evident with that whiteout. If you saw it on TV as I did, just phenomenal, that type of support, and such a tough place to play. So give Oregon credit for coming in here and being able to manage that and walk out of it with a win. And let's not forget, I mean, before we think the sky is falling, we had a 7-point lead in overtime. We got to close that out. That's how close we were. So people that are panicking out there, don't. There's a lot of football left. It's early, and let's improve from here on out.
That doesn't make this show any fun. Everybody should.
Well, Oregon's karma is
Ohio State lost twice last year in the regular season.
Good
Once
point.
to Oregon and came back and won it.
Yeah, I mean, it may benefit them to not be in the Big Ten final if that's how it plays out. If they're fortunate to slide into the playoff, they're going to have to win probably in Columbus to get there. What are the things that we were impressed by? The comeback, the atmosphere.
I think overall, Bill touched on it earlier, the defense allowing 17 points. I don't care how many yards or whatever. If you go into that game saying Oregon's going to score 17, you think there's no way Penn State loses. So that defense, I think, is capable of competing for championships. Their special teams can do the same thing. But what leaves you wondering is the offense. Can they compete at that level? And I just don't, unless something drastic changes, I don't see it.
I thought a big factor in the game was Oregon converted 5 of 7 fourth downs, kept the ball, doubled time of possession in the first half, and you saw it, and James admitted this afterwards, that the defense got a little tired, in late in regulation and in overtime, and it played a big.
But to me, that's as much on the offense for not converting.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
But it was 4th and 1, and Lanning goes for it down at the 8. He could have taken a field goal to go up 13-3. Might have been a safe lead at that point, and he punched in a touchdown. I was disappointed with a couple of the quick scores that the defense allowed, including.
But overall, I mean, how can you? 17 points. You think anybody else is going to hold Oregon to 17 points this year?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, the quarterback was great, and I don't know. I think that. What else would you think that was encouraging?
Barker has been unbelievable. I mean, I know he only had one opportunity, but to be able to do that, and Bill touched on it, the crowd. I mean, they were in there an hour and a half before the game. I mean, that place was packed, and I feel bad for the fans because they deserved better from the offense in that game.
It's almost like, does a whiteout create this illusion of sorts where the players don't think they need to be on their on top of their game? You just can't expect that factor of it to be it's a difference maker. You still got to show up and play. You still have to execute a game plan. You have to minimize mistakes. And until we do that on a consistent basis, we're going to see these types of close games. But yet, James Franklin, you said, is now 4-21 against top 10 opponents.
I just wonder if are they too tight? Do they overthink a lot of situations that came up afterwards about their non-conference schedule, which now looks even more indefensible?
It's supposed to be positives, Neil. What's your positive? What's your positive?
Well, my positive is they are once again on the brink of and competing at the highest level. I think Oregon is really good. To be able to come in here and do what they did, and they stayed in Altoona, that was their karma. I think Penn State has proven they are right there. They just have not gotten over the hump with in the clutch.
They own a home on the brink. I mean, they've invested heavily. They're paying a mortgage on a home on the brink.
The comeback.
Yeah.
As poorly as we were playing up until the early fourth quarter, it was just so
awful.
difficult to watch. It was, it was hard to watch. And then, boom, we're all of a sudden in this. And Aller's finding guys, and he's running for first downs, and we're moving the chains. And a 7-minute drive to tie it with less than a minute game, high drama. We're going into overtime, and we have some momentum. The defense, I think, was tired. When you Oregon's first effort in the first overtime was a tough, well drawn out, and then all of a sudden our defense is back on the field first, and they scored on their first or second play. So maybe they did get tired. Nonetheless, that's a game that you should win despite a lot of factors. At the end of the game, we're playing well.
Pena, Ross, I think these guys were positives. I liked how they used Pena. They had some decent downfield blocking by the receivers. But hey, just generally on offense, Katron Allen again ran hard. Needs to get more carries. So there's some things that they can build on. They can, and I think James is right when he says there's probably not going to be an undefeated team. So you got a playoff here is fairly still wide open.
Will they take 4 Big Ten teams, though? We were looking at the schedule. The dark horse here is Michigan. They only play Ohio State. They don't play Penn State, Oregon, or Indiana. Oregon gets Indiana up in Eugene. We get them at home. That's a tough road for Indiana. Obviously, Ohio State has us at their place, but they got to go to Ann Arbor. So will this college football playoff include 4 Big Ten teams when it's all said and done? That's tough.
Yeah. Okay, let's take another break. We'll discuss some in-game strategy right after this.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Dorman's Jewelry. The answer is always Dorman's. And by Harry's Construction. If you can dream it, we can create it.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back. The Nitwits are here. Just real quick, a couple things left over. When you talk about what did they work on for a couple weeks, they threw that one of the early screen passes where they had they had everybody out there to block, and it was almost intercepted. Oregon smelled it out right away, and I just thought Oregon was on top of them in terms of preparation and really out coaching.
Looked like they had a bye, didn't it? I mean, it looked like Oregon was coming off of a bye week.
No, Oregon now has a bye.
No, I said it looked like they did to prepare. I'm sorry.
Hey, how about the real bang call where it was kind of definitely a game changer where the kid's knee was perceived to be down. He fumbled. 3-3 at that point. Penn State, Wheatley always around the ball. He runs it back for 40 yards, and they reversed the call.
Yeah, and it might have played a role because didn't Oregon score in the very next play to go up 10-3? So that's a demoralized defense. We're here. We think we forced a turnover. So would that be a game changer? Absolutely. Breaks like that don't always go your way. So find some way to just throttle those guys down.
It looked like it was the right call. The way.
And listen, denied Dennis Sutton out of targeting that they didn't call.
I agree.
He baited a guy into a personal foul, so I don't think the refs were the key.
Afterwards, this came up. Somebody asked James, should he gone for 2 after the Ross touchdown? I thought he had the right answer
not in that atmosphere. No, I would not do that at home. If you're on the road,
Right.
Yeah. The other thing, this turned out to be a bad play where Big Gabe couldn't get it pooched or they couldn't get it covered, the punt down inside the 5. You might have at that point have been better off trying a 53-yard field goal.
Yeah, I guess you could nitpick all these things, but at the end of the day, the special teams I thought played well overall. They didn't have any return yards against Penn State, those explosive athletes. So to me, this is all on the offense.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, hey, now we look ahead at UCLA, a real train wreck. So we'll be right back, and we'll see who gained any ground in the Nitwit of the Year standings.
The NitWits are being brought to you by the Leo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Keller Engineers, delivering results exceeding expectations. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back. No damage, no blood. You told me I should have picked Oregon. That would have been.
There you go.
Yeah, that could have gotten.
Yeah, but there's a goose egg up there under Neal.
I know.
You could have
I
got
realize,
one.
huh?
Yeah. Well, Penn State would have held serve. You would have won, but we'll see. We got another chance this week. Coming off now, you got to fly across the country. You have definitely a demoralizing, emotional loss against a team that you're probably going to have more fans out of the Rose Bowl than UCLA. A challenge to regroup, though.
What's leadership like? I mean, that's what we're going to learn this week. I mean, these guys have typically been good leaders. Howler's been, say what you will about his playing style. He's been accountable. He's been a good leader. This is where it's going to you're going to have to really rely on that, and you're going to have to rely on the coaches to keep these guys motivated. Bill, you talked about it earlier. The season's not nearly over, but if you go and let one team beat you twice, it's going to be over.
Yeah, fortunately, it's UCLA and not USC. It's a pretty bad UCLA team. It might be the right remedy for a team that's maybe questioning themselves a little bit. Hey, we didn't do anywhere near how we wanted to. However, these guys, it's a wake-up call. This is the first step in a series. We talked about 82 team going to Alabama and losing, and again, you work your way back one game at a time, and regardless of who it is, you got to play well on the road. We go to Iowa later. We obviously go to Columbus. So there are some factors that we've got to play well away from Beaver Stadium. It starts next Saturday.
You got to play well in Beaver Stadium too
true.
when that time comes.
Yeah.
Do you think the early season schedule contributed to just a big gap of adjusting to the talent level that Oregon had?
No, they had a week off. They had 2 weeks to prepare for a team they knew very well from largely the same type of scheme they ran in that Big Ten championship game. So they weren't an unfamiliar foe. Would you have preferred that the games that they faced be more competitive? Maybe, but you stayed healthy. You got a chance to get in sync with these new wide receivers. All things pointed to an offense that was going to score more points than it did. And I think that's what shocked a lot of people, that it's 3-3 at halftime, where we're less than 109 yards total offense going into the final 10 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Well, the nice thing about it, you guys were a bit the exception in '82 when you lost to Alabama, because you still had strong enough opponents as an independent.
What was your next game?
Well, we came back and played Syracuse at home, and then we had to go to West Virginia with Jeff Hostetler, on the road again to Boston College, Doug Flutie, later on to Notre Dame. So you're right. But there were tests on the road away from Beaver Stadium, and I think the measure of a squad will be how can they, rally around each other.
But the point is, often back then, one loss ended a lot of hopes for a national championship. And now this playoff's been great. We experienced it last year. There is a lot of football left. It is discouraging that they haven't been able to figure this whole thing out, but there's a lot of avenues left for some big games to play themselves into a playoff.
Yeah, I mean, but before the big games, make sure you go out and play well. It's not just winning. I think they have to go out and prove that the offense is much better than we've seen today.
No doubt.
Watching the replay of the game, Blackledge was practically begging them to take a shot deep, to open the field up a little bit. They eventually did with Ross, but they haven't established that vertical threat to help open up the run.
Yeah, for the sake of moving the ball, and keeping a drive alive, they forego the deep upfield throw and want to go a little more conservative and safe. I think they now have the talent wide receiver. They've certainly gone through 4 games. Let's move this thing. Let's get more vertical. Let's take some more risk.
Okay. Once again, Bill, thanks for being here. Buy Bill's book, the When the Lions Roar, Brennan, safe travels next week.
We got to do picks, right?
Oh, we got to do picks. I'm sorry.
I'll go
you were
quick.
telling- yeah.
28-10 Penn State. I think the offense plays better, but still some things to work out.
How about you, Bill?
UCLA is nowhere close to where a competitive Big Ten team should be. I see a 44-10 blowout.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to say 35-7. UCLA just lost to Northwestern. So that's going to do it for this week's show. Appreciate you watching, and we'll look forward to our post-UCLA program next week. Thank you.
The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Harry's Construction, if you can dream it, we can create it. By DeLeo Games, serving the community since 1945. By Keller Engineers, delivering results, exceeding expectations. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.